Hey everyone, ready to go deep. Today we're diving into advanced scuba diving with IINTD.
INTD, those guys are serious about diving.
Yeah, they are, and we're taking a deep dive into their approach to EAX and Trimix.
That's exciting stuff. What are we looking at?
We'll be exploring their advanced EAMX and advanced recreational Trimix diver manual.
Sounds intense.
It is, but it's also incredibly fascinating.
Mm.
You're thinking about exploring deeper wrecks or maybe even venturing into technical diving?
It's definitely on my bucket list.
Well, this manual is your guide to doing it safely and confidently, straight from the experts at IANTD.
I like it. So where do we start?
Well, one thing that stood out to me right away was their emphasis on dive planning. No matter your experience level, meticulous planning is absolutely essential.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
It's not like you can just wing it when you're diving deep.
Exactly. It's about understanding your limits, calculating your gas needs, and planning for contingencies.
So you're saying it's like planning a road trip. But instead of snacks and playlists, it's all about depth, time, and gas.
Precisely. You've got to map out your route, know your fuel consumption, and have a backup plan in case you hit a detour.
I like that analogy. Makes it much easier to grasp. And speaking of gas, INTD dives right in to one of the biggest concerns with deeper diving: oxygen toxicity.
That's a scary one. It always makes me think about those old diving movies where the divers start acting loopy at depth.
Yeah, the Martini effect. But it's not just about deep dives.
Really? I thought oxygen toxicity was only a concern at extreme depths.
It can be a concern at any depth, depending on the partial pressure of oxygen you're breathing and how long you're exposed to it.
Partial pressure. That's something I've always struggled to understand.
Think of it this way. Imagine a balloon filled with air. Now imagine squeezing that balloon.
So the air inside the balloon becomes denser.
Exactly. The same principle applies to the gases we breathe underwater. As we descend, the pressure increases, and the partial pressure of oxygen in our breathing mix goes up.
So even if you're breathing regular air, the partial pressure of oxygen increases with the depth.
Precisely. And that's why we need to be mindful of our oxygen exposure limits.
Because too much oxygen can be toxic, even at relatively shallow depths.
Exactly. It's like taking too much of a good thing. It can have negative effects on your body.
So how do we know how much oxygen is too much?
Well, INET provides specific guidelines for oxygen exposure limits, recommending a maximum PPO2 of 1.4 for most of the dive and 1.6 during decompression.
PPO2?
Yeah, that's the partial pressure of oxygen. They even have charts and tables to help you calculate your oxygen exposure.
Sounds complicated.
It can be, but it's crucial for staying safe. And they provide clear explanations and examples to help you understand the calculations.
So you're saying it's important to understand your gas mix and to make sure you're not exceeding those oxygen limits.
Absolutely. Knowledge is power when it comes to diving safely.
Okay, so we've talked about oxygen toxicity. What about the other big concern with deep diving narcosis? The Martini effect.
Ah, yes. Narcosis. That feeling of being a little tipsy underwater. It's not just about nitrogen either.
Really? What else can contribute to narcosis?
Carbon dioxide buildup can also play a role, especially when you're exerting yourself at depth.
So if you're working hard, breathing heavily, your CO2 levels increase, and that can make you feel even more narcoed.
Exactly. That's why INTD emphasizes the importance of reducing your workload at depth.
It's about staying calm, conserving your energy, and minimizing those CO2 spikes.
And that's where their concept of equivalent narcotic depth, or ND, comes in.
ND, what's that all about?
Well, ND is a way of comparing the narcotic effect of different gas mixtures at various depths. Think about it this way. You're diving on a trimix mix at 60 meters.
Okay, I'm with you.
ND helps you understand what depth you'd have to reach on air to experience the same level of narcosis as you are at 60 meters on trimix.
So it's like a way of equating the narcotic effect of different gas mixtures to a standard reference point, which is air.
Precisely. It helps you make more informed decisions about your gas mix and depth limits. It's like having a built-in narcosis calculator in your head.
So what's the recommended ND for technical diving?
INDD recommends keeping your end shallower than 30 meters or 100 feet.
That's good to know. So we've talked about oxygen toxicity and narcosis, but there's one more factor we need to consider when it comes to breathing gases at depth: gas density.
Ah, yes, gas density. The heavier the gas, the harder it is to breathe, especially at depth.
It's like the difference between breathing through a straw and a garden hose. The wider the hose, the easier it is to breathe.
Exactly. And the same principle applies to breathing gases underwater. The denser the gas, the more effort it takes to move it in and out of your lungs.
So how do we calculate gas density? Is it just a matter of looking at the weight of the gas?
It's a bit more complex than that. INTD provides the formula for calculating gas density for both air and trimix.
And they highlight the variables involved, like pressure, temperature, and the molecular weight of the gases in the mix.
Precisely. And they introduce the concept of maximum operating depth, or MOD, based on gas density.
So there's actually a limit to how deep you can safely dive based on the density of the gas you're breathing.
Exactly. It's not just about narcosis or oxygen toxicity, it's also about how hard your respiratory muscles have to work to breathe the gas.
So where do they draw the line? What's the maximum gas density they recommend for technical diving?
INTD strongly advises against exceeding a gas density of 5.2 grams per liter.
5.2 grams per liter. They don't just pull that number out of thin air, though, do they?
No, they don't. They cite studies and real-world observations of divers experiencing significant distress when exceeding this density threshold.
So there's actual evidence backing up their recommendations.
Absolutely. And they even share a compelling anecdote about a group of experienced divers who pushed beyond that limit and found themselves in a really scary situation.
So it's not just theoretical. There are real-world consequences to ignoring these gas density limits.
Exactly. And INTD actually sets a hard limit of 6.2 grams per liter. They don't want anyone pushing their luck.
It makes sense. They're really taking a conservative approach to safety, which is reassuring when you're talking about venturing into the depths.
And this all ties back to their overall philosophy of planning, preparation, and redundancy. It's about stacking the odds in your favor.
So you're prepared for those unexpected challenges, whether it's a sudden change in conditions, a piece of equipment failure, or simply the physiological effects of depth.
Exactly. It's about understanding your limits, respecting the power of the underwater world, and taking all the necessary steps to ensure a safe and enjoyable dive.
And as we delve deeper into the world of technical diving with INTD, we'll see how this philosophy permeates every aspect of their training, from equipment configuration to decompression procedures to the development of those essential mental skills that allow technical divers to thrive in those demanding environments.
It's about more than just surviving down there. It's about exploring those hidden realms with confidence, competence, and a sense of wonder.
I'm excited to dive deeper into those topics in the next part of our deep dive into the world of INTD technical diving.
I'm right there with you. It's about having the skills and the knowledge to not just survive, but to really thrive in those challenging environments.
That's a great way to put it, thriving, not just surviving. And one of the key elements of thriving in technical diving is having the right stuff, that mental toughness that allows you to handle the stress and pressure of those deep, dark dives.
Absolutely. And INTD really emphasizes the psychological aspects of technical diving. It's not just about having the physical skills and the right equipment. It's about having the mental fortitude to stay calm, focused, and make good decisions when things get tough.
So it's like they're saying technical diving is as much a mental game as it is a physical one?
Exactly. They recognize that the underwater world, especially those overhead environments like wrecks and caves, can be incredibly stressful. They talk about the sensory deprivation, the confinement, the constant awareness that you can't just bolt for the surface if something goes wrong.
It's easy to imagine how those factors could really mess with your head.
Oh, absolutely. And that's why INTD dives deep into the physiological and behavioral changes that can occur under stress. Increased respiration, elevated heart rate, tunnel vision, impaired decision-making. It's like your body goes into fight or flight mode, but you're trapped in this dark, watery world with limited options for escape.
So how do you combat that? How do you develop the mental toughness to stay calm and focused in those situations?
Well, INTD offers some really practical advice. They emphasize the importance of proper training, building confidence through experience, and knowing your limits. They encourage you to practice those essential skills until they become second nature, so you can react instinctively and effectively, even when you're under pressure.
So it's about building that muscle memory, both physically and mentally.
Precisely. And they're big advocates for simulated emergency drills. They argue that these can help you desensitize yourself to the fear and anxiety that often accompany real-life emergencies.
It's like that saying, train hard, fight easy. You expose yourself to those worst-case scenarios in a controlled environment so you're mentally prepared to handle them if they ever happen in the real world.
Exactly. And they go beyond just drills. They also recommend a whole range of techniques to boost your mental fitness, breathing techniques, visualization, affirmations, goal setting. It's like taking a holistic approach to mental training.
So you're training your mind just like you train your body.
Precisely. You're preparing yourself for the challenges ahead, both physically and mentally. And they tie all this back to the importance of developing that winning attitude, that positive, proactive mindset that helps you overcome obstacles and achieve success.
That's a powerful concept. It's about believing in yourself, trusting your training, and approaching every dive with a sense of determination and excitement.
Absolutely. And that winning attitude can be contagious too. It spreads to your buddy team and creates a culture of safety, support, and success.
And speaking of buddy teams, INTD also stresses the importance of clear communication, especially when you're diving in those overhead environments where you can't just talk to each other.
Oh, absolutely. They have a whole section dedicated to hand signals, covering everything from basic signals like OK to more complex communication about gas management, decompression, and potential emergencies.
It's like learning a whole new language, the language of underwater survival.
You got it. And they emphasize the importance of establishing a communication plan with your buddy team before you even get in the water. That way, everyone's on the same page and knows how to interpret each other's signals.
It's about building trust and understanding so you can communicate effectively and respond appropriately, even when you're surrounded by darkness and silence.
Precisely. Now, let's shift gears a bit and talk about physical fitness. It's easy to get caught up in the mental aspects of technical diving, but we can't forget that it's also a physically demanding activity.
Absolutely. You need a certain level of strength, endurance, and flexibility to handle the equipment, navigate those challenging environments, and deal with unexpected situations.
And INTD is very upfront about this. They dedicate a whole chapter to the importance of physical fitness, explaining how it plays a vital role in everything from carrying heavy equipment to swimming long distances to managing fatigue and stress to even assisting your buddy in an emergency.
So they're not just saying, hey, be in shape. They're actually explaining why physical fitness is crucial for safety and performance in technical diving.
Exactly. They want you to understand the connection between your physical well-being and your ability to dive safely and effectively.
And they paint a picture of the ideal technical diver as someone who's not just strong, but also agile, flexible, and resilient.
Precisely. It's not just about brute strength. It's about having that overall fitness that allows you to move efficiently, conserve energy, and handle the unexpected.
So what kind of fitness regimen do they recommend? Are they talking about hitting the gym 5 days a week or running marathons?
They actually recommend a pretty balanced approach. They emphasize the importance of cardiovascular fitness, muscular strength and endurance, flexibility, and of course, proper nutrition. It's about developing a well-rounded fitness profile that supports your diving goals.
So it's like they're saying, listen, you don't have to be an Olympic athlete, but you do need to be in good enough shape to handle the demands of technical diving.
Absolutely. And they also stress the importance of maintaining a healthy weight, staying hydrated, and getting enough sleep. These are all factors that can impact your performance and safety underwater.
It's all about taking care of your body so your body can take care of you when you're exploring those deep, dark environments.
And they even suggest that pushing yourself physically can actually help build resilience and confidence that can carry over into other areas of your life.
Yeah.
It's like they're saying that the mental toughness you develop through physical training can benefit you in all aspects of your life.
It's a powerful concept. It's about pushing your limits, overcoming challenges, and realizing that you're capable of more than you thought possible.
And that mindset, that belief in yourself, can be incredibly empowering. It can help you achieve your goals, not just in diving, but in all areas of your life.
I love that perspective. So we've talked about the mental and physical preparation, but what about the equipment? What kind of gear do you need to safely venture into the world of technical diving?
That's a great question. Technical diving requires a whole different level of gear compared to recreational diving. And INTD doesn't just give you a generic gear list. They really delve into the specifics, explaining the why behind their recommendations.
So it's not just about having the gear, it's about understanding why you need that gear and how it works.
Exactly. They want you to make informed decisions about your equipment choices, prioritizing safety, performance, and reliability.
So let's break it down. Where do we start?
Let's start with the foundation of any technical diving setup, the cylinders.
The cylinders? Those are our lifelines down there, right?
Exactly. And INTD stresses the importance of using cylinders that are specifically designed for the type of gas mixture you'll be breathing. Whether it's nitrox, trimix, or heliox, your cylinders need to be rated and labeled accordingly.
Makes sense. You wouldn't want to put the wrong gas in the wrong cylinder.
Absolutely not. And they also emphasize the importance of proper cleaning, inspection, and maintenance to ensure oxygen compatibility and prevent contamination.
So it's not just about having the right cylinder, it's about making sure that cylinder is clean, in good condition, and compatible with the gas you're going to be breathing.
Exactly. And they recommend using dual outlet valves or manifolds which provide that essential redundancy. That way, if one valve fails, you have a backup. You can isolate the leaking valve without losing your entire gas supply.
So it's like having a backup plan for your backup plan.
Precisely. Redundancy is key in technical diving. Now, let's move on to regulators. These are the devices that deliver that life-sustaining gas to our lungs, so reliability is paramount.
INTD recommends having a primary and a backup regulator. Is that right?
Absolutely. You want to have two first stages, each with its own second stage, a submersible pressure gauge, and a low-pressure inflator hose.
That's a lot of regulators, but I guess redundancy is crucial when you're diving deep and exploring those overhead environments.
It is. If one regulator fails, you have a backup breathing source, and you can isolate a leaking regulator without losing your entire gas supply.
And what about comfort? Are there specific types of regulators that are better suited for technical diving?
IANTD emphasizes the importance of choosing regulators that are both comfortable and compatible with your entire system. After all, you'll be spending a lot of time breathing through those regulators, especially during those long decompression stops.
Comfort is definitely key. Now let's talk about the buoyancy compensator, or BCD. It's like our underwater wings, allowing us to control our depth and maintain neutral buoyancy.
And INTD is a big proponent of back-mounted BCDs. They argue that back-mounted BCDs provide superior stability, trim, and lift capacity for technical diving.
So a well-designed back-mounted BCD helps keep your buoyancy in line with your cylinders, preventing you from tipping forward or backward in the water.
Exactly. It's all about achieving that optimal trim and balance so you can move through the water efficiently and effortlessly.
And they discuss the different types of backplates and harnesses available, emphasizing the importance of finding a system that fits your body properly and provides the necessary attachment points for all your gear.
It's about customizing your setup to your individual needs and diving style.
Now, one thing that really caught my attention in the manual was their section on side mount configuration. It's a technique where you mount your cylinders on your sides rather than on your back.
Side mount diving has become increasingly popular in technical diving circles, and for good reason.
What are some of the advantages of side mount diving?
Well, it can offer some distinct advantages in tight spaces and overhead environments like wrecks and caves. For example, it allows you to squeeze through those narrow passages and navigate those confined areas much more easily.
It's like you're becoming more streamlined and agile in the water.
Exactly. And for some divers, it can also be more comfortable, especially those with back issues.
I can see how having the weight distributed on your sides rather than all on your back could be more comfortable for some people.
Absolutely. And INTD is a leading authority on side mount diving. They provide detailed guidance on everything from harness configuration to cylinder placement to the importance of the isolator manifold, which is a key piece of equipment in side mount diving.
So if you're interested in exploring the world of side mount diving, INTD is definitely the place to go for expert training and advice.
They've got you covered. Now, beyond those core essentials, the cylinders, regulators, and buoyancy compensators, INTD also provides recommendations for other important pieces of gear.
What are some of those other essentials?
Well, for starters, a good mask is crucial. You want a mask that provides a clear, wide field of vision and fits comfortably on your face.
A leaky mask can be a real distraction, especially when you're trying to focus on navigating a complex environment or monitoring your gauges.
And when it comes to fins, INED recommends choosing a pair that's both powerful and efficient, allowing you to move through the water with minimal effort and avoid stirring up silt or damaging delicate marine life.
So it's about finding that balance between power and finesse.
Exactly. And they also stress the importance of a reliable dive computer that can handle the complexities of technical diving. You want a computer that can track multiple gas mixtures, calculate your decompression obligations, and monitor your gas consumption.
And a backup computer is always a good idea, right? Just in case your primary computer fails.
Redundancy is key. And finally, no technical diver should be without a good set of cutting tools. You'll need at least one sharp cutting tool, like a dive knife or shears, to free yourself or your buddy from potential entanglements. You never know when you might encounter fishing line, netting, or other debris that could snag your gear or even trap you.
INETD emphasizes the importance of carrying your cutting tool in an accessible location and practicing deploying it quickly and efficiently. It's like they're saying, hope for the best, but prepare for the worst.
Exactly. And with that, we've covered the essential gear recommendations from INET. But as they rightly point out, equipment is only as good as the diver using it. It's not just about having the gear, it's about knowing how to use it properly, maintaining it meticulously, and understanding its limitations.
It's about becoming one with your equipment so it becomes an extension of yourself rather than just a bunch of gadgets strapped to your body.
And that's where INTD's training really shines. They don't just teach you how to operate the equipment. They help you understand how it works, how it interacts with your body and the environment, and how to troubleshoot potential problems.
They empower you to become a more confident, competent, and self-reliant technical diver, ready to face the challenges of the deep with skill and a sense of adventure. Now let's talk about those challenges. What are some of the specific techniques and skills that technical divers use to navigate those challenging environments, those overhead environments, like wrecks and caves?
That's a great question. Technical diving requires a whole different level of precision and skill compared to recreational diving. You're operating in a much more demanding environment with limited visibility, tight spaces, and the constant awareness that you can't just bolt for the surface if something goes wrong.
So the stakes are definitely higher.
They are. And one of the most fundamental differences between technical diving and recreational diving is the use of specialized propulsion techniques. In technical diving, efficiency is key. You need to be able to move through the water with minimal effort, conserve your energy, and avoid stirring up silt that could reduce visibility and potentially damage delicate marine life.
So it's not just about kicking your fins and swimming along.
Not exactly. Technical divers use a variety of advanced finning techniques, like the frog kick, the modified flutter kick, and the helicopter turn, to maximize their efficiency and minimize their impact on the environment.
I've heard of the frog kick. It's supposed to be really good for avoiding stirring up silt on the bottom.
Exactly. It's a very precise and controlled kick that's ideal for delicate environments like wrecks and caves. It involves keeping your knees bent and using a sweeping motion with your legs to propel yourself forward without creating a lot of turbulence.
And what about the modified flutter kick? How is that different from the standard flutter kick that most recreational divers use?
The modified flutter kick is all about maximizing propulsion while minimizing effort and air consumption. It involves a smaller, more controlled leg movement that focuses on generating thrust without creating a lot of drag.
So it's about finesse rather than brute force.
You got it. And then there's a helicopter turn. This is a really cool maneuver that allows you to change direction in a very tight space without using your fins.
How does that work? How do you turn without using your fins?
It involves using subtle shifts in your body position and your breathing to create a kind of rotational force. It takes a bit of practice to master, but once you get the hang of it, it's an incredibly useful skill for maneuvering in those confined spaces.
So it's like you're becoming one with the water, using its own forces to move you around.
Exactly. Now, INTD doesn't just describe these techniques, they actually break them down step by step, providing detailed instructions and illustrations to help you understand the mechanics and perfect your form.
It's like they're taking the mystery out of these advanced propulsion techniques, making them accessible to anyone who's willing to put in the time and effort to learn.
Precisely. And they also emphasize the importance of practice. They encourage you to try these techniques in a controlled environment, like a swimming pool or a shallow, calm dive site, before you attempt them in more challenging conditions.
So it's about building that muscle memory and that confidence in your ability to perform those maneuvers when it really matters.
Absolutely. Now, beyond propulsion, INTD also delves into the art of trim and buoyancy control, which are absolutely crucial for technical diving.
Trim and buoyancy control are important for any diver, but I imagine they become even more critical when you're diving deep, exploring overhead environments, and carrying multiple stages and other equipment.
You're right. In technical diving, your trim and buoyancy affect everything from your air consumption to your ability to maneuver to your safety. If you're not properly trimmed, you'll waste energy fighting to stay level on the water, you'll kick up silt and reduce visibility, and you'll increase your risk of getting entangled or stuck.
So what is proper trim? How do you achieve that perfect balance in the water?
IANTD emphasizes the importance of achieving a neutral trim, where your body is perfectly horizontal in the water. This means that your head is in line with your torso, your legs are slightly elevated, and your fins are not dragging on the bottom. They provide a range of techniques and tips for achieving this neutral trim, including proper weighting, equipment configuration, and body positioning. It takes a bit of practice to get it right, but once you do, it feels almost effortless to move through the water.
It's like you're gliding through the water rather than fighting against it.
Exactly. And once you have that neutral trim, you can fine-tune your buoyancy control using subtle adjustments to your BCD to maintain your depth and avoid ascending or descending unintentionally. It's about developing that awareness of your body in the water and learning to use your breath and your equipment to control your position with precision.
It sounds like it takes a lot of practice and fine-tuning.
It does. But with INTD's guidance and your own dedication, you can master these essential skills. Now let's talk about those overhead environments, those wrecks and caves that beckon us with their mystery and beauty.
They're definitely alluring, but they also present a unique set of challenges for divers.
Absolutely. And INTD doesn't sugarcoat those challenges.
Yeah.
They're very upfront about the risks involved in overhead environments, and they emphasize the importance of proper training, experience, and a healthy dose of respect for those environments.
So what are some of the key considerations when diving in those environments? What sets them apart from open water diving?
Well, for starters, you're diving in an environment where you can't just bolt for the surface if something goes wrong. You're essentially trapped inside that overhead environment, whether it's a wreck or a cave, and that can create a whole different level of psychological stress.
I can imagine that feeling of confinement could be pretty intense.
It can be. And that's why INET stresses the importance of maintaining situational awareness at all times. You need to be constantly aware of your surroundings, your depth, your air supply, your buddy's position, and any potential hazards.
It sounds like there's a lot to keep track of. It's like you need eyes in the back of your head.
You do. And it's easy to get disoriented in those environments, especially when you're dealing with low visibility or complex passages. That's why INTD emphasizes the importance of using a guideline to maintain a physical connection to your entry-exit point. The guideline becomes your lifeline, and you need to be meticulous about managing it, ensuring that it's always taut and free of entanglements.
So you're always tethered to that lifeline, essentially.
Exactly. And you need to practice using that guideline effectively, learning how to deploy it, how to follow it, and how to communicate with your buddy using line signals.
It's a whole different set of skills compared to open water diving.
It is. And then there's the issue of communication. In those dark, silent environments, clear and concise communication is absolutely crucial. You can't just talk to each other, so you need to rely on hand signals and light signals to convey information.
INTD has a whole section in their manual dedicated to communication in overhead environments. It's like they're teaching you a whole new language, the language of underwater survival.
You got it. They cover everything from basic hand signals for okay and out of air to more complex signals for gas management, decompression, and potential emergencies. And they emphasize the importance of establishing a clear communication plan with your buddy team before you even get in the water. That way, everyone knows what to expect and how to react in different situations.
It's about building trust and understanding so you can rely on each other and work effectively as a team in those high-stakes environments.
Absolutely. Now, let's shift gears for a moment and talk about something that's often overlooked in discussions about technical diving, environmental awareness.
Ah, yes. One of the most important aspects of diving, regardless of your level of experience or certification. It's about recognizing that we are visitors in this incredible underwater world, and we have a responsibility to protect it.
And INTD really hammers that point home. They emphasize the importance of minimizing our impact on the environment. We need to be mindful of our buoyancy control, our fin kicks, and our interactions with marine life. We don't want to be those clumsy divers who crash into corals, stir up silt, or harass those amazing creatures we encounter.
It's about becoming more aware of our surroundings and our actions and making choices that promote both personal safety and ecological sustainability.
Exactly. And INTD encourages us to go beyond just avoiding harm. They challenge us to become active stewards of the ocean, participating in cleanup dives, supporting conservation efforts, and spreading the word about the importance of protecting our marine ecosystems.
It's about becoming ambassadors for the ocean, not just consumers of its beauty.
Beautifully said. Now, I'd like to circle back to something we touched on earlier, risk assessment and management. It seems like this concept is woven into the very fabric of INTD's approach to technical diving.
You're absolutely right. Risk assessment and management are at the heart of everything they do. They want you to understand that technical diving is inherently risky. There are no guarantees. But they also empower you to make informed decisions about those risks.
They encourage you to think critically about every aspect of your dive, to identify potential hazards, to assess the likelihood and potential consequences of those hazards, and to develop strategies to mitigate those risks.
It's like they're saying, listen, we can't eliminate all the risks, but we can minimize them through careful planning, preparation, and a healthy dose of common sense.
Precisely. They provide a framework for thinking about risk, a set of tools for evaluating those risks, and a series of techniques for managing those risks effectively.
And they emphasize the importance of recognizing your own limitations and making decisions that prioritize safety over ego or ambition. It's about knowing when to push your limits and when to back off.
It's about having the humility to say, you know what? This dive is pushing me beyond my comfort zone. It's not worth the risk.
And I think that's one of the most valuable lessons that INTD imparts. It's not just about teaching you how to dive deeper. It's about teaching you how to dive smarter, how to make those wise decisions that will allow you to enjoy a long, safe, and fulfilling diving career.
I couldn't have said it better myself. They really do a fantastic job of breaking down those complex concepts and making them accessible to anyone who's willing to put in the effort to learn.
It's not just about memorizing rules and procedures, it's about developing that deep understanding of the science behind diving.
Exactly. They empower you to think critically about your dives, to anticipate potential problems, and to make those informed decisions that will help you stay safe.
And that knowledge, that understanding, is what truly sets technical divers apart. It's not just about going deeper, it's about diving smarter.
I couldn't agree more. And that brings us to the end of our deep dive into the world of technical diving with INTD. We've covered a lot of ground, haven't we?
We have. We've explored the depths of dive planning, gas management, decompression theory, and equipment configuration.
We've delved into the psychological aspects of diving, the importance of mental fitness, stress management, and environmental awareness.
We even ventured into the fascinating realm of specialized gas mixtures and learned about the captivating and sometimes unsettling effects of narcosis.
It's been an incredible journey, and I hope our listeners have gained a deeper appreciation for the incredible skill, dedication, and passion that drive the technical diving community.
I think they have. We've only scratched the surface of this vast and complex world, but we've hopefully sparked some curiosity and inspired some further exploration.
And who knows, maybe some of our listeners are now feeling that call to adventure, that urge to push their limits and experience the underwater world in a whole new way.
If that's you, we encourage you to seek out those opportunities, to connect with the INTD community, and to embark on your own technical diving journey. The underwater world is waiting, filled with endless possibilities for discovery and wonder.
So go out there, explore those hidden realms, and remember to dive safely, responsibly, and with that same sense of awe and excitement that drew you to diving in the first place.
The depths await.